Good afternoon, all. We've just started this event. I'm going to give it a minute or two just to allow other people to join. So we should get underway in a moment or two. Okay, well, good afternoon and a warm welcome to our latest webinar. We're going to be revolving around our fleet insurance predictions for 2023. My name is Dylan Taylor and I'm the Insurance Partnerships Manager for Matrix IQ. Whilst I work closely within the fleet insurance world, in particular our insurer and broker partners and schemes, I feel it'd be wrong for me to cast my own Mystic Meg predictions on the industry. So I'm delighted to introduce a panel of guests who will be concentrating on a selection of relevant topics around where we see the market moving into next year. Antton, would you like to start, followed by Dean and then Stuart?
Absolutely. So thanks everybody that connected to the session today. I'm Antton, Block's founder and Chief Strategy Officer. Block is a connected insurance company, and of course we rely on connectivity and telematics, and we'll talk a lot about that today. And I'll also give you a glimpse of what that connected insurance concept is all about and how we can deliver value to customers by delivering a strong product that will evolve over time.
Dean?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So thank you everyone for coming on. My name is Dean Avis. I am the Fleet Director at Hubb Insure. My role at Hubb is to build successful partnerships with like-minded insurers and provide the best customer service and maintain strong relationships with the clients.
Stuart?
So thanks, Dylan, for the invite. So I'm Stuart Library. I'm the Fleet Innovation and EV Manager here at Matrix IQ. So I work alongside Dylan. I'm a fleet manager by trade, have been for over 20 years, working in the utilities, facilities management for mixed car, van and truck fleets. So yeah, from the operational perspective, I've kind of seen and heard lots of things. So hopefully I can help in the conversation.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Before we begin, I just want to highlight that this webinar is being recorded. It'll be made available at the end should you wish to rewatch or share with your colleagues through our Matrix on-demand service. It's worth noting too that we have a live Q&A function in the bottom right-hand corner, so please feel free to ask any questions as we go along and I can put it towards the panel. So, first topic. Telematics-based schemes and policy discounts. Now, we work closely with Flock and their current scheme. So, Antton, it makes complete sense for you to begin.
Thank you, Dylan. So, look, this topic is very interesting in the context of predictions because the word telematics has been around for around 25 years. It often feels like we're not really innovating with this concept. So, I wanted to take an opportunity to step back a little bit, talk about our experience in this world and how we ended up developing the proposition we currently have, which is powered by Matrix. When we came into the commercial motor fleet space, we noticed that there was a massive crave for flexibility in the market. At the moment, the most innovative policy was a usage-based insurance policy, right? And that was the insurance policy that was using telematics to offer something slightly new. We've been in the market for around 2 years now, and in these 2 years, we've very quickly iterated our product. We launched with an initial offering of having two products, a flat rated product and a usage-based product, I noticed that customers will want flexibility and want to be rewarded for any actions they take to reduce risk. They also have some needs around forecasting their costs and knowing how much they're going to be paying, as well as making it as easy as possible for them to migrate. So we went through a fast process of iteration. When we bring this to the predictions concept, I think we're going to
Antton, you there? You still with us? Seems to have frozen somewhat. Just give him a moment to rejoin. Dean, do you want to step in while we wait for Antton to come back in?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously working for Hub Insure, we work with numerous insurers. One of them being Flock. However, Anton's back on, so I'll pass it back over to Antton.
Thank you, Dean, and apologies for my connection dropping. So what I was trying to say is I think we're going to see more and more focus in what customers really need. I think we've gone through a period where technology has been driving the proposition at the beginning with pure telematics products, then with usage-based products. We're now getting to a maturity point where the technology is no longer there to drive the proposition, but there to support the proposition, and the products we'll see in the market will be really reacting to the needs customers have. And hopefully you could hear the needs I talked about before. They want to be remunerated for their actions they take to become safer. They want the flexibility to continue to grow the business as they need to, but they also need help to identify those actions they can take on to keep their fleet safer. And that's why I think we'll continue pushing for. Sorry, Dean, back to you now.
Yes, so sorry, it's just obviously working with like-minded insurers. Obviously, we're a broker, but we align. We've got the same sort of principles. Working with Flock, obviously, is a great thing. Obviously, and obviously you've got Matrix as well that bring in sort of the risk insights. But looking at sort of like the telematics-based schemes and usage and behaviour-based policies, what we're seeing is more demand for usage-based. Not so much usage-based, but more around sort of going into the behaviour schemes instead. What I did find is that the pay per mile, so like the usage-based policies, they were very, very sought after during the pandemic for obvious reasons. A lot of vehicles were spending a lot of time on the road, not off the road, sorry. So therefore, they were just paying a set base rate and not paying the pennies per mile, etc. So we're definitely seeing a higher market for these usage-based and behaviour policies. Moving on from that, obviously, the problem is with what I see is what I've noticed in the market is with the pay per mile policies, the claims haven't been. There's not a true reflection on. There's less vehicles on the road during this period of time, so therefore the claims data has just gone completely off record. So we found that the pay per mile policies were coming in during the pandemic. There wasn't a lot of claims on these vehicles for obvious reasons, less traffic. And now what we found is in the last sort of 18 months since we've started getting back to normality, claims have sort of gone off the roof. So I think what clients are more looking for, an insurer as well, and a broker, of course, we're looking to try and drive clients, and the demand for behaviour policies is becoming a lot stronger. The ratings obviously gone up since the pandemic as well. Again, that was just a wild time, as you all know. But obviously, I see the trend of behaviours being the norm. It's getting more and more popular. More and more insurers are starting to replicate this as well. They're starting to factor in their pricing on behaviour as well. So really, I see this as being the normal way of insurance policies being given out these days instead of more of usage. So yeah.
Dean, you just touched on the courier part. Do you ever see couriers in particular rejecting the behaviour-based options because obviously they have to complete 100 drops a day, and that can obviously go against them?
No, not at all. I mean, I believe the behavior-based policies will become the new norm. As I said, insurers are more than ever demanding telematics to be installed on the vehicles so this can be monitored. So I think obviously having the telematics installed, you can get a rough idea of how many drops that client's doing. That delivery driver is doing. I think it's a better way to manage the risk, especially in the courier market. The behavior side is just, it's something we can monitor as a broker with the help of the insurer. So with Antton obviously helping in, obviously Matrix being part of it as well, we can take them risk insights. But yeah, I'll pass it over to Antton.
I think, Dylan, this is a very interesting question. What customers cannot receive is a static offering that treats them all the same way, right? A safety insight that's very valuable for a self-drive hire fleet. It's completely different to a safety insight that will be valuable for a courier fleet or for a trades fleet. Each of those trades have their own constraints. So the importance here for me is to start developing mini SAP propositions that really speak the language of those customers. And I think going back to that initial concept I was mentioning at the beginning, the industry has been focused in building one solution for everybody that was driven by one technology that was available. We're now starting to break that and looking at courier fleets and saying, okay, we understand that you've got a challenge to hire drivers. So firing drivers as an insight is not going to be valuable for you, but helping you understand what
He's gone again.
Yeah. I see what Anton's saying. We're going to look at the insights, and then it's not going to be beneficial to the actual PSP owner to fire a driver because of their bad driving. But what we can do as a broker, working with the insurers like Flock, we can take the risk insights and then we can deliver them back to the client and say, okay, look, Dylan, you're working for this DSP, you're not driving too well. Can you have a word with that driver? Is there a problem? And then deep dive into that and try and rectify it that way.
Yeah, Antton, you're back in the room. I wanted to ask you, what data in particular are you looking at when you're generating your underwriting strategies?
Very good question. So we first start from the data brokers can send us, and brokers usually use the word of submissions for this, right? So we take everything we already know about the fleet, and from that initial position, and we start laying additional contextual data. So we start mapping markets data and vehicle specification data to specific data sources. We connect to our underwriting models, and then when possible, we add driving or telemetry data on top of those models. We know that getting access to that data sometimes, when you're starting a relationship with a customer, can be tricky, either because they've not been connected in the past, or for very fair reasons, they're a little bit skeptical about sharing data even before we've started a working relationship. So when available, we use telemetry data. That is often available at renewal, not when we start that policy. And that is the data that enables us not just to adjust that underwriting, but also start generating risk insights for customers. And most importantly, generate rebates, which is the mechanism we've got to return premium to customers as they become safer. So what we do with that telemetry data is work with the customer to understand how they've driven, understand what they've done to reduce their risk, and as we've quantified their risk reduction, we return part of the premium we've charged them at the beginning back to the customer as a reward for their risk work when we consider.
Stuart, have you got anything to add to that?
I think the guys make a really interesting point. Is I know from the fleets I've run in the past, whenever you install telematics, the drivers instantly think that you're trying to find things in order to bin them off and sack them for something. So I think it's really interesting that the guys have recognized the fact that actually this is a learning opportunity. And so the fact that the insurers recognise it, I think, is really proactive, because that's not always the case within an individual organisation. You have to put a line in the sand as to where a driver's current standard, behaviour is, and then let them see how it compares to maybe others, or the fact that let them come to their own conclusion that there is a better way, and let them start their own journey in order to improve, because you can't make them improve. You've got to show them that there is a different way and let them find their own way through it. I think it's really refreshing to hear that the insurers will pick that up.
And we've had a question from Mark Costello at Hubb. Don't know, Dean, you may want to take this. Is buy miles insurance as a concept finished, at least in the insurance industry, commercial insurance market? Anybody want to take one?
Yeah, I can take that one. Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question, and I think I touched base on it earlier. Over the pandemic period, where there was a lot of laid up vehicles, it's beneficial to most of our clients that we were taking on. But I think I don't think it's finished. I just think you've got to look at the risk, and you've got to determine whether it's going to be best on a behavior unlimited, a traditional policy, or if it's going to suit a pence per mile scheme. Now, in my eyes, the only ones that's going to fit a pence per mile scheme is coaches, for example, or minibuses. So if you've got some coaches, and obviously during the school periods, half terms, etc., you can have vehicles not moving. Now, if you put them on a traditional policy, you're going to be paying that premium during that period of time, even though they're not moving. So it would be good to be able to have a laid up cover for that period where you're not paying any pence per mile, and you just get the fire and theft cover. Also, where it will also, it's not finished, because I still think it works quite well in city centres where you're doing low mileage. So you've got to weigh it up. So I think it's still there, but it's getting less and less, in my opinion, when I'm speaking to my customers on a day-to-day basis, it's getting less and less demanding.
Just to add a couple of quick thoughts to that answer, I think per mile insurance can still deliver value to customers, but customers are scared about one thing, and it's being overcharged when their business starts going well. So they want to see some premium back when they, for some reason, haven't been able to drive. And that can be a pandemic, but can also be a number of sick drivers or a couple of vehicles being broken down. So they want to receive that premium back because they know they're not exposed, but they don't want to be penalized when they see their business starting to take up. And again, it comes back to that initial point of saying, okay, what is the customer need? How can we react to what customers are asking us to deliver on, and use the technology to deliver on that, instead of us forcing the customer to pay per mile, which clearly creates a position of disadvantage when the customer starts to win.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Antton completely. And one quick thing to add into it as well, something, we had to cancel a pence per mile scheme recently because we had a client that was actually working on the car exchange market. Now, what we found is he had to be really selective with the routes or the jobs that he was taking, because sometimes driving to Manchester and back on a pence per mile scheme and only getting paid 300 quid for it, the insurance is costing £170 on the pence per mile scheme. So the profit margins are a lot lower. So they have to be selective, and they can't look at the whole UK and take the work from there. They can only take it locally. So that was another reason why I don't think it works with certain contracts.
Okay, I'm just conscious of time, so we're going to move on to our next topic. I think we've answered that one pretty well. We've gone through that quite thorough. So obviously the next topic we've got revolves around electric vehicles, a topic our in-house fleet innovation and EV management knows a thing or two about. So Stuart, would you like to start on this topic?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's from the fleet perspective, certainly on cars, and has been for probably the last year or so now, and shows no sign of slowing down, there is only one direction of travel, which is the electrification, whether it be hybrid or full battery electric. Based on from the company car perspective, based on the benefit in kind savings alone, it is an absolute no-brainer. So I guess conversation we want to have is in relation to, I think, still the insurance industry from the fleet perspective is kind of one of the missing links that I don't think it's a conversation that happens as common or as often as it should do. So is what is the perceived risk in relation to the claims going forward? Is it the fact that these vehicles are prohibitively more expensive currently? We will get to parity at some point, but at the moment then they do have high values attached to them in general. Is that going to change how insurance companies look at the repair methodology? And the fact that actually the expectation from fleet operators, and especially in the growing van market, electric van market, is some of those operating constraints that they used to have won't exist anymore. So a fleet operator may run a diesel van for, I don't know, 4 years, 100,000 and get rid of it before the engine blows up. But in order to make the numbers work, and based on the fact there are less moving parts that can break down, expectations are these vehicles are going to run much longer in time. They may still do the same mileage, but actually some of the finance now, you might be looking at running these things for 8-9 years, especially in the utility market where that's not uncommon. And with less of a chance of a mechanical breakdown, is businesses are encouraged, or certainly proactively looking at running these vehicles longer. So I suppose we're in a bit of an unknown quantity in relation, because the numbers are still small now from a volume perspective, but actually that direction of travel is not going to slow down. In fact, it's probably going to speed up, and it will become the only gig in town. So like the rest of the fleet industry from the service and maintenance perspective and other areas, is the insurance market ready for the growth in the EV market?
Very, very interesting intro. If I can provide a bit of a perspective on how I think the insurance market looks at this, I see two schools of thought. There's one school of thought where some insurers are starting to understand that EVs are simpler machines. They've got less moving parts. It can be faster to repair them. And as you were saying, Stuart, they've got, or they can have, lower lifetimes and lower probabilities of mechanical breakdown. So that's one school of thought. The other school of thought, which in my opinion, unfortunately, still very prevalent, is that this is something new. This is very complicated. If we've got something that breaks down here, it's going to cost us an arm and a leg. And if a battery hits another car, who knows what kind of liability exposure we're going to have, right? So I see those two schools of thought battling against each other in the market. And when different insurers represent one of those, they often do it in a gut feel basis, right? Like, we don't have much data in this space. We're starting to get some data from a repair perspective, from a collision impact perspective, but we're still operating at a gut feel basis as an industry, and that's quite dangerous, because if you've got a loud voice at a very progressive insurance company, take LV for example, you will see how they're betting in the market, in this market, and trying to grow into the market, but just underwriting often blindly into that space. And in the other end, you see some slower moving players, and I don't think I should be naming names in this front, where they're simply slow at reacting to this trend that it's obvious, and they're going to have to eventually react, but they're letting someone else react to it first, to wait and see and get some data and then start underwriting with it, right? I think connectivity starts to resolve this problem. We often say that our job as Flock is to stop underwriting with backwards looking data and to start underwriting with forwards looking data. With connectivity, we can start getting signals around the potential for breakdown. We can start monitoring small incidents that can start giving us data on the impact they can have long term, even if those don't result in a claim. And that's what starts feeding our underwriting model. So hopefully that explains my view. I think we've got two forces in the industry. Those two are based on gut feel. the way of solving that is by bringing data, but backwards looking data is not going to solve it, and we need new data sources to solve that dilemma.
Agree completely. I think actually it's largely the same in the fleet industry, because there are fleet operators who are in exactly the same boat. So some are going out there and trying it and absolutely learning from the mistakes, and others as they go along, and others are waiting to see what happens, and waiting to understand more before they commit. So I think that's probably hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, I've got something to add on as well, and it's very interesting, Antton. You might be able to go into a little bit more in detail after. But what I'm noticing right now is a lot of the traditional insurers have just got blanket sum insured, so they will cover a vehicle up to, let's say, 40,000. Well, with like the market, the rates going, struggling to get hold of vehicles, we're finding that vehicles are getting more and more expensive. Now, in fact, some of these insurers, their policy wordings aren't actually covering the client sufficiently. Some might only go up to 40,000, whereas an EV these days could cost in excess. By the time you put in the gear as well, like the railings, etc., you could be looking at 60, 70,000. What I've noticed is there is a couple of insurers out there that have actually started asking whether you've got an EV or whether you've got a diesel. So what they've started doing is they've actually started to price these on different modules. However, there's still the companies out there that aren't doing it, and they're just offering blanket up to 50. But you're going to get a worse claims loss ratio if you've got 10 electric vehicles sitting at a retail of 45,000 or 10 diesels sitting at 12,000, yet the premium is still the same, but there's a higher risk to the insurer because the total loss on the EV section is going to be a lot more than the total loss on the diesel section. So I wonder how the insurers are going to adapt this. Are we going to start looking at two different rates for an EV and a diesel, or it's hard for me to, as a broker, to understand that? But Antton, maybe it's something you might be able to pitch in on.
Well, my perspective here, and maybe I'll connect this to the prediction side of things, is that every car should be individually rated. Like, to me, the idea of just bucketing 50% of the vehicles we've got in the UK to one bucket and the other 50 in the other, or like I think around 3% of vehicles new vehicles are sold as electric, and the rest are still combustion engine. So, but you get the point. Like, for me, it's crazy that we're just having two different rating models and rating all vehicles at the back of those two models. Like, every vehicle is different. We've got different mechanisms of chopping the market right now, which are the ABA groups, but are still very imperfect mechanisms. Like these are, for those that are not exposed to ABA groups, these are insurance bucketing mechanisms or segmenting mechanisms, where they segment all vehicle types into specific bands, where those bands can have different insurance ratings. It's still a very simplistic mechanism. We've got way more data to be able to target pricing in a very sophisticated way. We don't have to be asking if a vehicle is electric or not. If you connect the vehicle, we will know if the vehicle is electric or not, right? And again, the reason why I'm connecting this towards the prediction side of things is because we need customers to be happy to share the data as well. And I think it is a journey we all have to work together, right? The customer has to understand that they will benefit if they open some data towards us, because the rating will be specific to that vehicle, and if they've got an incident in that specific vehicle, the loss ratio will be adequately impacted, not unfairly impacted. So probably roundabout way of saying, I agree with you, that's not the way we should be doing things, but I think we need a way more ambitious vision than what we currently have in the insurance.
Okay, with time moving on, I feel like we need to come on to the next one. Justin, I've just seen your message. If we have time at the end, we'll come back to it. But now we're moving on to topic number 3 in around customer service, retention, added value services. I work closely with Dean for a couple of years now, and it's clear to see that within Hubb in particular, that positive customer experience are high on the list. Dean, do you want to start this topic off?
Yeah, of course. I mean, customer service, retention, and value-added services. It's 3 points that sit at the heart of what Hubb is about. we are known as, and what I've tried doing with our team is especially we look around the customer service, because in my eyes, what I've learned in the last 10 years is if you look after a customer, the customer will stay loyal. So customer service is very high on the list, and what we've done is we've what I think every broker should do as well, because sometimes when a client is placed with you, they just want the client on cover, and then that's it. You won't hear from them again. You won't get any follow-up calls from that individual. So what we do is we've got a dedicated customer service team in the house that will take care of that customer after. We will always still be in the background. We will always still like speak to them if needed and join in, you know, as and when needed. But it's very important that a broker, an insurer can align these three things together very well. And I think that's what we do. And not just the broker as well, obviously bringing Matrix into the equation here as well, obviously working closely with Flock and with the customers we've got there. Having a young Tommy at Matrix, he's, you know, he aligns the exact same customer service guidelines that we do. And he's always on point. He goes straight to the client, gets things done. So I think it's very, very, very important that we can do that. What we do is, as I said, we know that we work, us three as a three company, separate companies, work very well together. And yeah, I mean, us as a broker, I think it's very important that you should be available to the client outside office hours as well. We also try our hardest. It's not obviously always possible, but we always, obviously, I think it's very important that we can rectify a customer's issue within 24 hours. And that's with the help of a Flock's dedicated customer service team as well. So we link up very well. And I think it's very important that brokers have that. Otherwise, you're looking for failure, basically. It just will not sustain, and you'll just lose the customers. A great tool that I found, and I think, again, more and more brokers need to bring this into their company, is WhatsApp. WhatsApp is a great tool to get things answered immediately. If a client wants to get hold of you, it's a quick and easy way of just saying, hey, I'll be with you in 10 minutes. You know, you're not getting a customer then call a phone line and no one on the end to pick it up. So I think it's very good that you got these valid, I see it as a valid value service to the client, having that WhatsApp to the client to communicate with you. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are on them, but I think it's a game changer.
I can chip in with our perspective here. I think I can do other than be vigorously nods at everything Dean is talking about. We believe that there's a massive opportunity to change the game when it comes to delivering cover and more than cover. I think the market has been quite stagnant and at reacting to this, and we've seen the same products being offered forever, which have been a piece of paper, right? So the way we see it in the customer front is that we've got a massive opportunity to build a relationship with the customer where we don't just cover anything that might end up going wrong, but we're there to continue delivering insights to them and help them improve their operation. We're there to improve their cash flow as they go, and we're not just contacting them, or we're not asking the broker to contact them at the end of the policy life cycle, but we're helping them understand how their premium rebate is accumulating throughout the policy life cycle. So I completely agree that we need to be there. On the contacting the customer side of things, I think Hubb are a very forward-thinking broker, and I see our job as someone that enables brokers to operate like that. Different brokers will have different ways of contacting their customers or of building relationships. They'll also have different segments they attract, and then WhatsApp might work very well for the very fast-moving, maybe Amazon courier companies, but they might not resonate with techniques like that if they're, I don't know, an old school plumbing company, right? So I see our job as a partner that enables brokers to react to their customer needs very, very quickly. It's no secret that the reason why we've grown is because we've really listened to what brokers want to see, and we're really adaptive to how brokers want to work. And I think telematics is a key part of that. Like, I know that many brokers have feared the word telematics because it's been simply making their lives more complicated. And as Dean was saying, I think having a strong triangular partnership with Matrix, with the broker, and us, it's really starting to pay dividends, not just for the broker, but of course at the end of the day in these three keywords for the customer as well. And we're starting to see that impact retention numbers. We've got an enviable net premium retention number at Flock that is multiple points above market benchmarks, which I think is demonstrating how the innovative product we've got, built in a way that the broker can distribute it easily, fastly, and in an innovative way, it's started to work.
Stuart, have you got anything to add on this you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, no, I think it's again is been in the fleet industry long enough. It's still kind of fascinating that there are lots of fleet managers and large fleets out there who aren't fully engaged with their insurer. It's one of those kind of distress patches and something I know I've got to have, but actually it's there's no engagement. Hearing the guys with that collaboration between the broker, the insurer, and the client, I think is key, because actually, I found in the past when I've run fleets, that dialogue is key. That it's not just about we referenced it in the first point is I fit telematics, therefore I want a discount. Is you want to be showing that continual improvement and that development of the policies and procedures and the outputs you're seeing. A lot of sort of reduction in claims, even things like improved fuel economy. You're demonstrating the effect the actions you're taking are having on driver behaviour. So how else are you going to? So really, you want to take personal ownership of that as a fleet manager to have that conversation or that dialogue with the broker and the insurer. Just so it's not just rhetoric. It is absolutely kind of these are things that as a fleet we're managing every day, and it's not something we see enough. So it's really good that actually this collaboration is taking place and it needs to continue.
Yeah, got one thing to add on to like what Stuart just said there. I think what Hubb and Flock do very well is we do the quarterly reviews. So Flock have a risk management specialist, and so does Hubb. And what we do is we speak to our larger clients on a quarterly basis, and what we do is we highlight not just the negatives, because there's always a positive as well. So it's important that you also highlight the positives to the OSMs or the actual director of the company. So what we do is we then highlight this, we speak to the clients, and then what we do is we work together, and through our combined work, we help to improve or maintain the good risk management that fleet is how they're running. Obviously, if it's on negative, we're looking to get them onto a positive, but if they are sturdy, is there anything we can get it just to make it that little bit better? If we can do that, in return, what it does, it builds a better relationship between the insurer, the broker, and the client. And ultimately what this does is it results in improved retention rate at the end of the year for everyone involved. So for broker and insurer, you're going to get higher retention rate because the relationship that you built with the customer. I mean, before I started working at Hubb, this was never a thing in my job role. We never, ever, ever spoke to customers about risk insights. Are you doing things well? Are you doing things bad? Can we help to, can we step in before it's too late and stop you getting that, that premium at the end of the year that's going to go, do you know what? I can't run my business anymore. So what we're trying to do, Hubb's here, along with Flock and Matrix with the insights, is to stop that happening before it's too late.
I think what it comes back to is moving away from the old-fashioned speaking at renewal and at inception, and moving to use the data instead of being scared of it. That's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely right. Yeah. Once you start that journey, all parties have kind of got to commit to it, because it's never easy trying to deal with driver behaviour. But actually, when you get a handle on it and you start to show it, it is massively rewarding for everybody, where you can see where you're really adding benefit. So yeah, I agree completely.
Okay, if we've exhausted this subject, we'll move on to the next, just to keep the conversation going, and it's on mandating preferred hardware. I mean, with so many telematics providers out there, they all have their own criteria. They all have their own quality and range in commercials. So it makes infinite sense to raise this topic. I personally worked closely on several fleet schemes where we've been the preferred hardware supplier, and it's raised positive and negative opinions across the process from insurer to broker to the policyholder. So from an insurer level, it's a good thing, isn't it? One risk algorithm, one FNOL format, one product to deal with. The broker, though, as Dean, when we first started speaking, it was a huge barrier, wasn't it, on the likes of the TradeX model that we had, because most fleets have got telematics installed in some capacity. So forcing what's perceived as an additional cost can lower the rate of sale. And finally, the policyholder just sees it as real aggro, pulling the vehicles off the road to install a device that they haven't personally bought into. Antton, that Flock's entire premise is connected fleets, but we're still in an era of where not everyone has telemetry installed. So how do you combat these barriers? And more importantly, where do you see it all moving into next year?
Yeah, a topic I can talk about forever. I think this connects with that initial. Okay, I'll shrink it as much as possible. This connects with that initial topic I brought up at the beginning. I think we've been very technology-led, very technology constraint-led in an industry that has around 25 years now, and we've not really listened to the pains the customer had, right? So what we've been doing as an insurance industry is say, okay, you think you can drive safer and you want us to give you some cash back, just install this device in. Neglecting that the fact that you have to install that device in actually carries some cost, or it reduces your operational efficiencies, or it requires you to train a team on using a new technology, right? So our approach has always been to be telematics agnostic. We say that you've enabled us to achieve as an aggregator, and what that enables us to do is to recognize the efforts, financial or time effort, that the customer has put into connecting that fleet already, and what we do is just connect to whatever that's available, right? So, and that completely changes the tone towards the customer, because when you initially were going to the customer saying, hey, if you want some benefit, you just have to bring all the vehicles back to the depot and install this thing. You're saying, I know you're connected. I know you're already thinking about using this technology. How about we start rewarding you for it? And we can do it overnight by simply connecting to that, right? We are driven by a stat we wholeheartedly believe in that flow, which is that by 2025, all vehicles will come with some sort of connectivity from factory, right? Or new vehicles will come out of factory with some sort of connectivity. So that's already taking us in a direction where it no longer makes sense for us to insist on a specific hardware, and it makes more and more sense for us to connect to whatever that customer has installed. And that might very soon not be a piece of hardware, might be an account that they use to log into their vehicle, right? So we just have to surf that wave in a way. In that prediction world, we have to accept that the industry is not there yet, right? Like, yes, we see some fleets that are very well connected, or yes, we see some vehicles that come with very strong connectivity from factory, but the reality is that around 70% of the market is not yet connected. In the UK, the number is 34%. So 34% of commercial vehicles are connected. The rest is not. So we still have to continue working with those customers to connect them. If we can, we offer them devices that you enable us to do. If the customer is interested in bringing in a more sophisticated solution or a more bespoke solution to the type of operation they run, and they want to bring in a different TSP, we also enable them to do that. So the key concept for me here is flexibility. It's accepting that the industry is moving in a direction, but that we're not there yet. And that we all, again, as that triangular broker matrix block concept or partnership, have to be making it as easy as possible, A, for each other, B, for the customer.
Yeah, I mean, just going on what Antton said and what you said at the beginning there, Dylan, you get these insurers and they stipulate that you have to put this preferred partner telematics device in the system, into your vehicle, at an expense. But ultimately, the client also doesn't see any risk insights from that. So they're paying for something, but not getting any reward for that service, for that device. Especially, again, won't name them, but we know there is things out there, but it's definitely the way forward is API into any sort of system. Because if you don't, it's also, in my opinion, it's not treating the customers fairly. What you're doing is you're restricting the broker to their job to select, okay, what telematic devices do you have in? Oh, I've got XXX. Okay, I know I can go to XXX insurers, but them 3 insurers are now out the market. One of them 3 insurers could have been £1,000 cheaper a van, but the customer would never know because he's getting pressured by the broker or by a provider to put certain telematics in because he don't want that hassle and that expense of another £100 a unit just to change insurer. So it's restricting the broker and restricting the client to be able to move his insurer, to be able to move his policy come the renewal, basically.
If I can share an anecdote here, and again, we'll try to avoid names, but we are starting to see customers come to Flock that were required by another another insurance company to install a specific device, and they're coming to us saying, "I'm no longer happy with this insurance company for whatever reason, and that might be priced, but that might not be priced. But please don't make me go through the same process again a year or 2 years later, because it was a pain 2 years ago. So what can we do here to resolve this problem?" And technically, that issue is relatively straightforward to resolve, right? And we've got your platform and you enable us to achieve that. Commercially, that can become a challenge sometimes because these relationships between preferred telematics company and the insurer sometimes become very, very messy, and the customer gets caught up in that whole world, right? So again, technically, I think we're there. I think we're already making it very easy for customers to continue being connected and extract value, and that value can be risk insights and enabling safety, but can also be premium back if they become safer or they drive less. But I think we still have a little bit of a journey to walk when it comes to a modus operandi of an industry that respects that connecting. It's still a bit of a chore for the customer, and that our job is to reward it.
We've had a couple of questions come in. The first one's from Justin Cox at Courier Depot. Is it possible to provide fleet managers any form of cost-benefit analysis to telematics, say comparing to a similar fleet size and model, if you like, and see what they could achieve in fleet and insurance savings over the year? Does anybody want to take that one?
I think hopefully Dean and I will be speaking the same language here, but Flock's product is very simple. Flock's product gives you a flat rate per vehicle type, and then as you connect those vehicles, you start accumulating a rebate that can reduce the premium to up to 10%. And that premium reduction can be because you drive less miles than you expected, or because you become safer. So the unit economics are very simple. That 10% is achievable. That 10% is not something we leave you alone to achieve. It's something we work with you on achieving. So that premium reduction, it's clear. If the customer is happy with our preferred telematic solution, that costs the customer nothing. So they don't have to invest in installing telematics devices. If the customer has already invested in installing a connectivity solution, again, we'll connect to that. So for me, the numbers 10% is big and it's very clear.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with what Antton said there. It's yeah, agree.
And Stuart, from a fleet manager's perspective, if I can say the word,
is I think it works both ways. So yes, you can, but in order to demonstrate or even kind of quantify that potential savings analysis, is making sure that the fleet operator, the client, has a decent handle on what their cost base is now and why, because otherwise you could very easily throw a 10% saving on fuel, claims, etc., If you don't know what your baseline is, how on earth are you ever going to measure? But if you have that information in your armory as a fleet manager, which I always would, then actually there's nothing best to push it the other way. Is demonstrate that to your broker, your insurer, because actually that's the piece I was talking about earlier on. That's a tangible benefit, and it's putting black boxes in the old days. Having that data available doesn't change driver behaviour. He's taking ownership of it as a fleet operator. Someone in that organisation, whether it be the fleet manager, the CEO, somebody somewhere, everybody has a responsibility of managing that driver behaviour and doing something with it. Once you know, you can't unknow it. And that's why actually a lot of organisations don't like telematics, because it's almost if it's not in black and white now, you can't hold me responsible for it. Actually, yes, you can. But if you ever want to deal with it, you've got to know what you're dealing with, and that's where telemetry comes in. So, like we said earlier on as well, if you're going to do it, commit to it and do something with it. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of money.
Yeah. Conscious of time, we're going to move on to our last topic now. Thank you for that. And Mark, I'll come back to your question at the end if we have time. But we have to talk about data protection and OEM telematics. Antton, from an insurer's point of view, do you get asked about this at policy inception on the subject of ethanol processing? Surely for someone in your position in offering these sort of sophisticated schemes, utilising telemetry, you need the access in the first place.
Yeah, totally. This is a conversation we're all becoming more and more sophisticated into. So we end up talking about this. Our job is to communicate two key concepts. First, that the data is the customer's, and that we don't share that data with anyone else. We use that data to enable a service, and that any learning that's done from that data is completely anonymized. So there's no invasion to their operational know-how. There's no sharing of how they operate fleets to other fleets that others can benefit. So we very much respect their position in the market. The second concept we work very hard on conveying, both to brokers and customers, is that the data the customer gives us translates into value back to the customer straight away, right? And we always say we receive data from customers to unlock two value propositions. The first one, enabling safety, so retaining risk insights back to customers. The second one, incentivizing safety, which is returning premium back to customers, right? And that is when you start having a slightly less protective conversation with the customer. It's not my data against your ambition. It is your data will unlock a benefit for you. And I don't think we're there. I think we've got a long journey to work. I think we need to continue working with hubb and brokers to convey that message to customers. But I think we're slowly helping customers see that the data they have and the fact that they end up getting connected generates more data, ends up delivering more value to them. Dean is at the forefront of all this and talking to customers all day long. So I'd very much welcome what his perspective is on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, with the data protection, I mean, obviously, hubb, we build technology, to protect clients' data and obviously to stop it leaking. With the data that we get, obviously, we get the data from Flock in the format of risk insights, which is a presentation-based document. Obviously, we don't see any raw data, so we just get the risk insights, and obviously, it's important that we get that to be able to do our job and offer our clients the risk insights that are important to maintain a good company. Obviously, having the telematics and with the actual system itself, I mean, it's not something I can really go into too depth in because it's not something that I really handle. I mean, it might be something for Stuart, being the EV specialist, but I'll pass you over.
That's fine. I mean, it's. I think it's important to understand the data protection legislation. So historically, is where we've implemented it in the past in fleets I've run, is as an organisation before we even do it is. If we're going to start talking to drivers about driving behaviour, that's personal information. that's who, when, why, etc., especially in company cars where it might be a private journey. So it's having the right policies and procedures in place. So having a legitimate interest assessment done. So is asking themselves why we're holding it, what are we trying to achieve with this data, and what are we going to use it for? And then also the personal impact assessment. So is understanding who is impacted and what, and how, and actually communicating with them and giving them the assurances, like you said, Dean, I think it's just like we're not selling this data to other people. This is actually to gain insight into how our fleet operates on a day-to-day basis, and for no other reason. But actually, as soon as you say you put in telemetry in a vehicle, drivers automatically get very nervous. And I think the move to OEM telematics, whereas the driver probably doesn't even realise because we haven't told them we put a box in because it's already there from the factory. Then actually, in the event of something happening, just making sure all those things are in place to protect the organisation and the driver, especially when they come back and say, I didn't even know it was in.
Yeah, I agree with what Stuart said there around putting the telematic devices into the system, into the vehicle. Sorry, it's a hard sell for a broker. Like they just think the insurers are out there to spy on them. And of course, then we're trying to sell them a rebate policy, and they go, how are we going to get a rebate if I'm getting monitored 24 hours? And so it's us to the broker just to say, look, the reason that we're putting these black boxes in your vehicle isn't because we want this kind of data to spy on you. It's literally just to be able to get some risk insights to try and help you as the customer improve your business.
Yeah, so we're just going to answer Mark's question now before we go. What does the agnostic hardware model do to the tolerance of precision, and does it matter? And to Dean, how does the labour market shortage affect operators using good data to change bad driving behaviour?
So I'll answer my bit first. So obviously with the labour market shortages, obviously a lot of our DSPs, whether that be Amazon, DPD, especially when there's age restrictions as well involved, it's very difficult to find a good driver, or any drivers at all. They come and go. It's not a job that everyone wants to go and drive around for 8-9 hours a day and deliver 160 packages. So when you do get a driver, okay, obviously looking at this data, it could be bad behavior, it could be good behavior. What it's doing is having bad behavior and then trying to explain it to our customers to say, you've got to take action against this driver. What we're finding is some of the OSMs or the directors are saying, well, look, hang on, Dean, look, struggling to get my drivers as it is. But we're not here to say, look, we want you to sack that driver. We're here to go, you need to speak to Dylan because he was speeding. He was doing 80 on a 30 on several occasions today. So, it's us just giving them the positives and the negatives, but in a good way. So we're not just going out there and saying, right, that's it. Dylan, you can't drive anymore. You need to get rid of him tomorrow. We're saying, right, speak to Dylan. Is there a problem? Did he not realize that road's dropped down to a 30 and it was a 60? There could be numerous reasons. So it's all about getting that fine tune and making sure that your client's happy, but you're giving them the relevant information to do so.
And does anybody want to add to this? We've got about 40 seconds if you want to jump in.
No, in 40 seconds, I'll probably take Mark's first question. So Mark, yes, it does matter. Having different devices that are sending you data makes our lives way more complicated, but that doesn't mean that the life of customers has to be any more complicated. So in short, leave it to us. We've built products to make sure that the data we've got can unlock value for customers, both in insights and rebates incarnations. And we will continue working with partners like Matrix to make sure that that data is normalized better and better over time, but we will not sacrifice in delivering value to customers.
Thank you very much. Well, we've certainly covered a lot here in such a short space of time. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank everyone for attending and my excellent panel of guests for such great insight into next year's trends. We look forward to seeing you for the next one. Thank you.
Good to see you.